everybody. If I could have your attention, please. My name is Robert Brucato. I am the current president of the UB Law Alumni Association. On behalf of myself, our board, and our over 13,000 alumni, I would like to thank you all for attending tonight's 62nd Distinguished Alumni Awards dinner. We have a group of extremely deserving honorees, and we look forward to celebrating them this evening. So I'd like to introduce for now the individuals who are sitting on the dais this evening. Sitting at the dais from my right, we have Stephanie Mack, who is the class of 2008, and Stephanie is the executive director of the Law Alumni Association. And we have Carmen Snell of the class of 1992, attorney at law, and a former Law Alumni Association board member. And then we have Kristen Graham Kohler, who is of the class of 1994. She is the managing partner of Sidley Austin's Washington, D.C. office. Kristen is also an emeritus member of our Dean's Advisory Council and a past chair of the DC Alumni Chapter. And next we have the Honorable Lawrence Filardo. U.S. District Judge for the Western District of New York. And we then have the University at Buffalo President, Satish Tripathi. And next is Jeff Gleason, class of 2008, a partner at Bond, Shennick & King, and one of the co-chairs of tonight's event. And on the other side of the podium, we have Ann Dillon Flynn, the class of 2015. Ann is the clerk of court of New York State Supreme Court, 4th Department. Ann is also a co-chair of tonight's event. And then we have Todd Brown, Dean Todd Brown, the 21st Dean of the UB School of Law. And then next is Joseph Bellick, the class of 1994, partner at Bellick Law in New York City. And then next we have the Honorable Barbara Johnson Lee. Class of 1986 and Buffalo City Court Judge and acting county court judge. And Judge Johnson Lee is also a former board member of the Law Alumni Association. We then have Michelle Brown of the class of 1979. She is the owner of the law offices of Michelle A. Brown and former chief attorney of the Children's Legal Center. And then we have Patricia Ciccarelli, class of 1993, partner at Schnitter Ciccarelli and Mills, and president-elect of the UB Law Alumni Association. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our alumni that are engaged with the law school, including those that have taken the time to join the Law Alumni Association. And for those of you who have not, we encourage you to do so. It's a great way to get and stay connected with fellow alumni, and also meet our law students too. Our members receive benefits including free or discounted admission to our social and networking events, free admission to select CLE programs, and free remote access to online databases, including Hein Online through our online alumni portal. If you're interested, you can join online through the Law Alumni Association's link on the law school's website. In addition to annual membership, we also offer a lifetime membership option. The biggest benefit is you won't get any more invoices for your dues if you sign as a lifetime member. So our alumni support of this organization, both through our annual dues and fundraising efforts, are critical for the Law Alumni Association's ability to financially support the law school. The money that is raised is used to support a number of initiatives of the law school, along with tuition scholarships and public interest summer fellowships for our law students. Each year, the Law Alumni Association provides funding for the law school to designate a Law Alumni Association and a Gold Group Scholar. In addition to our financial support, the Law Alumni Association also provides law students with career advice, mentoring, networking connections, and jobs. We help recruit prospective students, we participate in admissions and career panels, and we judge moot courts and other programs. We also support university-wide initiatives, coordinate events with UB Athletics, and make sure that the law school and its students maintain their status on campus. This is just a few of the many ways the Law Alumni Association seeks to make a difference in the lives of our students. And if you're not a member, we invite you to join us. I'll just say too, I'm going off the script, having been on the board and president this year, I'm overwhelmed by the dedication of our alumni, of the legal community, and our board members. And thank you for that, and we look to continue that. I'm sure we will. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Dean Brown, Dean Todd Brown, the 21st Dean of the University of Buffalo School of Law. Dean Brown joined the law school faculty in 2009 and served as Vice Dean for Academic Affairs from 2016 through July of 2023, when he was appointed interim dean. He is a highly regarded expert on bankruptcy trusts, Chapter 11 bankruptcies, complex litigation, and mass torts, and is frequently quoted by national and international media outlets. Before joining the law school, he was the managing partner of a small business and practiced with the law firms of Wilmer Hale in Washington, D.C., and Jones Day in Washington, D.C., and Cleveland. He has a JD from Columbia Law School and an LLM from Temple University. Please join me in welcoming Dean Brown.
How about Rob Brocato? Since Rob has already gone off the script, I'm going to go off just very quickly and say this man has been everywhere this year, representing the Law Alumni Association, tirelessly representing the school, and we are incredibly thankful for your service this year, Rob. And of course, we want to thank Rob and the Law Alumni Association for hosting this evening's celebration. You know, it is a real honor to be seated at the dais with tonight's distinguished guest. And of course, special thanks to President Tripathi. The university's support has been critical to everything that we've accomplished in recent years. I am very grateful to the President's leadership and guidance. Thank you. Of course, and when I say I mean not only me personally, but as a representative of the law school, we are incredibly grateful to all of you, our alumni, students, faculty, and friends. We've had an especially good year, and that's a product of this extraordinary community's efforts and enthusiasm. The law school is proud of the fact that our alumni continue to be the most engaged alumni across campus and one of the most engaged law school alumni in the country. I think that is, of course, clear by the sellout crowd that we have here tonight, as well as many of our other events this year. Our graduates, along with many other friends and supporters, always show up. They participate in programming. They invest their time and resources in helping us educate future UB Law graduates. That's not a surprise. From the law school's founding by members of the legal community in 1887, through world wars, financial crises, and dramatic political and social changes, one thing remains constant: the partnership between UB Law and the legal community to develop and mentor the next generation of lawyers. That partnership has been the key to our greatest successes, including, of course, our recent ones. These recent ones in this past year, we've had some of the best outcomes ever. Stellar placement rates exceeding 96% for the class of 2024. We have had back-to-back record-setting first-time bar passage rates, nearly 90% for the class of 2024, and that number climbs to 95% when we consider students who have already passed the bar after taking it a second time. What most people don't know is that we also place in the top 10% nationally across several indicators of student engagement and satisfaction, something that we are very proud of. This is the result of collective and ongoing efforts of everyone here tonight, especially represented by members of the dais here. I can point to different people on this dais who have served as mentors, as professors, adjuncts, people who continue to mentor our students when they get out into the community. Our mentors, coaches, adjunct faculty, employers, and financial supporters, every one of you serve as an advocate and partner, and for that, we thank you. Again, I would like to wrap up by acknowledging the exceptional leadership of LAA President Rob Bracata and Gold Group President Todd Potter, as well as members of the Law Alumni Association and Gold Group boards of directors. The Law Alumni Association has been the driving force behind many of our recent and not so recent community events and initiatives. Its members are the law school's top ambassadors. Thank you for all that you do for the law school and for its students. And now I'll stop so we can get on with President Tripathi. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean Brown, for your wonderful remarks. It is now my honor to introduce Dr. Satish K. Tripathi, the president of the University of Buffalo. President Tripathi, an internationally distinguished researcher and transformative higher educational leader, was appointed the 15th president of the University of Buffalo in 2011. He has led this university in achieving significant growth in research and scholarly activities, enhancing student quality and diversity, and more recently, leading the university in completing a record-setting billion-dollar Bowley Buffalo campaign. As president, he is committed to building on this strong foundation, moving the University at Buffalo into the highest ranks of the nation's leading research universities. The law school is incredibly grateful for his steady leadership and his ongoing partnership. Please join me in welcoming President Tripathi.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the entire University at Buffalo community, welcome to our alumni and friends. I'm delighted to be with you tonight, and it is wonderful to have this opportunity to recognize the accomplishments of the School of Law Alumni Association's honorees. On that note, to those we recognize tonight, congratulations. I'm so pleased to celebrate the positive impact that you have made throughout your distinguished careers. With your significant contributions, the lives and the communities you have changed for the better, you embody UB's academic mission. Your commitment to your profession and to others inspire all of us, but especially to our UB students who will serve as the next generation of legal profession. As leaders in your field, you have contributed to the vibrancy of our region and well beyond. And as distinguished alumni and university friends, you have helped make UB what it is today. Since our founding, UB has always been defined by our intellect, our innovations, and our contributions to the communities we serve. Our law school, our School of Law, is critically important to UB as we pursue our mission-driven priorities of innovative research, groundbreaking scholarship, and impactful engagement. And in many meaningful ways, our School of Law faculty, students, and alumni bring our mission to life. As one example of the law school's critical education program, addresses pressing environmental concerns, helps people facing discrimination, seek redress for survivors of domestic violence, and advocates for reforms in the criminal justice system. Given this focus on the greater good, it is no surprise that in the US News ranking released this month, the UB School of Law is ranked in the top 10 nationwide for the students seeking jobs in the public interest. Yes, that requires. We greatly appreciate the important role that our School of Law student, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends play in making UB the great public research university that it is. Congratulations again to all the tonight's honorees on this much-deserved recognition. And my heartfelt thanks on behalf of a grateful university community for all that you do to advance UB's mission of excellence and impact. Thank you.
Thank you, President Tripathi, for your inspiring remarks. So the Law Alumni Association gratefully acknowledges our underwriters who helped to make this dinner possible. Our various sponsors' names are listed on the PowerPoint that has been and will continue to be playing throughout the dinner. It's in addition to the many signs on display in the foyer and in the ballroom, as well as in our dinner program. I encourage you to all take a look at them. All proceeds from this dinner benefit the activities of the Law Alumni Association. This is our number one fundraiser, really it's our key fundraiser. Without the generosity of our sponsors, we would not be able to provide our law students with tuition and public interest scholarships, and our members with the many social, educational, and networking alumni programs that are organized throughout the year, both in Western New York and in our various regional chapter locations. Thank you for your support and for your partnership as well. I would also like to thank our two dinner co-chairs, Jeff Gleason, class of 2008, and Ann Dillon Flynn, class of 2015. Along with Jeff and Ann, our annual dinner committee put forth many hours into making tonight a success. Our committee members included Joan Adams, Elise Cassar, Patricia Ciccarelli, Megan Corcoran, Andrea DeLulio, Mike Hecker, Neil Pulowski, Diane Perry Roberts, and Sarah Washington. Thank you all. And I would also like to thank the law school and law alumni staff who organized this event: Stephanie Mack, Amy Hypnorowski, Hannah Sigurdsson, and Lisa Mueller. Thank you. Thank you all for your commitment to our association and to our alumni. Also, a special thanks to Executive Director Emma Reiter, Eileen Fleischman, who is here tonight. I will now ask that all of the officers and current directors of the Law Alumni Association and the organization's graduate of the last decade or gold group to stand and be recognized for their many contributions to the law school and the Law Alumni Association. The Law Alumni Association congratulates the members of the class of 1965 who are celebrating their 60th year anniversary, and the class of 1975 who are celebrating their 50th year anniversary. A full list of names are in the program. All will receive certificates of appreciation for their long service to the profession. Tonight, we have several members of the class of 1965 and 1975 in attendance. I would now ask them to please stand and be recognized. Congratulations and happy anniversary. So we will now break for dinner service. Our President-elect, Patricia Ciccarelli, will resume the program after the break concludes. And again, my thanks to you all for your attendance tonight and support of our association and of the honorees.
This is our 62nd awards dinner. Established by the Law Alumni Association's Board of Directors in 1963, the Distinguished Alumni Awards recognize the valuable contributions that UB Law alumni have made to our profession and our great community. In our program booklet, we have provided you with a lengthy list of the previous recipients, many of whose names you will recognize as giants in our legal community. Also in our program booklet are the acceptance remarks of tonight's honorees and the highlights of their professional careers. Stories from our law school's history have become part of the treasure trove of information that has been compiled in an extensive oral history project initiated in 2000. That project, funded by Lauren D. Racklin, has recorded alumni, faculty, members, and others with close ties to the law school, preserving their voices for posterity and digitally indexing their words to provide easy access for historians, researchers, and others. All 6 of tonight's honorees have been interviewed as part of the Oral History Project, and tonight we will feature a clip from each of their interviews as part of the awards presentation. Our truly amazing and dedicated dinner chairs, Jeff Gleason and Ann Dillon Flynn, will now present the awards. Thank you.
Stephanie Mack told me it would be inappropriate to have walk-up music tonight, so can we just pretend they played Mr. Brightside? It is my honor this evening to present the award for the judiciary to the Honorable Judge Johnson, Barbara Johnson Lee, Buffalo City Court Judge, Buffalo City Court Judge and acting Erie County Court Judge. When interviewed for the Oral History Project, Judge Johnson Lee describes her early work at the Volunteer Lawyers Project has inspired her throughout her career.
I remember as a young attorney working with Volunteer Lawyers Project. Obviously, it's pro bono work. I had the pleasure of volunteering with them. And I had a woman who was senior citizen. She must have been in her 70s, probably even closer to 80s. Her income was $500 a month. She was referred to me for me to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy for her. And it took me at least the first hour of meeting with her sitting in my office in this chair, and the chair looked like it was twice her size. She was so frail. Just in that moment, just being there with her, trying to talk her through it, was such was such a pleasure, something that has stuck with me throughout my duration of my practice and even while I'm on the bench. I think of her often and just am very thankful I was there to work with her, to help talk her through what I know was the right thing for her to do.
What are the qualities that make Judge Johnson Lee stand out? Her colleague, the Honorable Craig Hanna, 1995 UB Law graduate and an Associate Justice of the Appellate Division, 4th Judicial Department, frames it this way: great judges are a lot like great parents. In his words, you want to get to the root of a problem and help ensure it doesn't happen again. Barbara has always been like that: empathetic, thoughtful, and really focused on helping people, especially when they're in crisis. Concern for others has been central to the life of Judge Johnson Lee. After graduating from UB Law in 1986, she launched a solo law practice out of a home office, allowing her to strike a balance between work and raising 5 children, along with her husband, Owen. The judge, who immigrated to the U.S. from Jamaica, was the first in her family to go to college. While she had the support of her law school friends, she had to figure out a lot on her own about building her legal career. And if you've never heard her story, I encourage you to seek the judge out. You will be amazed and inspired. Jamila Lee, who many of you know as the Vice Dean for Student Affairs at UB Law, is the judge's youngest child. A 2015 graduate of the law school, Jamila has vivid memories of spending time in the real estate closings room at the Erie County Clerk's office with her siblings watching her mom work. For Judge Johnson Lee, it was frequently take your children to work day. Being a present and involved parent was very important to her, Jamila explains. When Jamila went off to college, the judge joined the Legal Aid Bureau in Buffalo. Even though it was a 9-to-5 job, Jamila says, her mom rarely treated it that way. Helping people is simply a part of who she is. She would even pick up clients and drive them to court. Judge Johnson Lee also became the primary caregiver for her mother and later her mother-in-law when both became ill. It was a tremendous responsibility, but she never complained. Over the years, she often thought about seeking a position on the bench, but with all of her obligations, it never seemed like the right time. And then in 2014, with the encouragement of her good friend, the Honorable E. Jeanette Ogden, who now serves on the Appellate Division 4th Department bench, she took the plunge and ran for office. With Jamila serving as campaign manager and the support of other friends and family, the judge prevailed in the Democratic primary vote for city court and cruised to victory in the general election. Observers on the bench admire her calm demeanor. In Justice Ogden's words, the judge is, and I quote, intelligent, she evaluates cases carefully, and she never loses her temper. I don't know what it would take to get her angry. I certainly lose my temper from time to time, but she doesn't. I think we'll have to check with your children on that one.
Yes.
Justice Ogden, a 1983 UB Law graduate, points out that the city court involves a high volume of cases. Judge Johnson Lee always refuses to be rushed, no matter the impatience of others in the court. I used to tease her that it was her Jamaican side. Deliberate and unhurried, Justice Ogden says. But she gives each individual case the time that it is due. People want to feel heard. Barbara gives that to everybody. Judge Johnson Lee has presided over a wide variety of cases in city court. As acting county court judge, she presides over the Supreme Court Judicial Diversion Program, as well as the Mental Health, Veterans, and Substance Abuse Treatment Court. Justice Hanna says it takes a special kind of person to work with individuals in crisis. Often, the people coming into treatment court don't want help at that point, Justice Hanna says. A judge has to look past that, remain steady, and guide them. Barbara has that gift. He continues, the beautiful part is when someone comes back and gives the judge credit for turning their life around, even though it was through their own effort. The judge was just the person who said, why not give today a chance? Barbara has been that person time and time again. Tonight, we proudly recognize the extraordinary combination of commitment and compassion. With great pleasure, we present the 2025 Distinguished Alumna Award to my friend, our friend, the Honorable Judge Barbara Johnson Lee, for her conscientious and diligent performance in the judiciary.
Kristen Graham Kohler, managing partner at Sidley Austin's Washington, D.C. office and head of its D.C. litigation group, is this year's recipient of our award for private practice. During Kristen's oral history interview, she spoke of the many leadership opportunities she has been afforded throughout her career at Sidley.
I've been serving on the firm's executive committee for the last 10 years, which is really the equivalent of the firm's board of directors. And I currently serve on the firm's management committee, which is comprised of the 8 individuals globally that run the firm. And I'm very proud to say that as of April 1st, 5 of those 8 members will be women, which is just really, really remarkable. And I also have served for the last 4 years as the managing partner of DC's office, and really the first time a woman has held that role. Sidley really has been an incredible place for me and really for all women in private practice. It affords tremendous opportunities for everyone, and really has enabled me to not only have a terrific practice in the white collar criminal defense arena, but also to lean into these leadership opportunities and have the opportunity to run the organization on a day-to-day basis.
Kristen impressed her colleagues at Sidley Austin on her very first day working at the powerhouse firm. Karen Popp, senior counsel at Sidley Austin, was in Mississippi working on an investigation. Kristen hadn't even completed Sidley's orientation yet, Karen says, when the firm flew Kristen to Mississippi to help out with the complicated case. Kristen got off the plane and jumped right into conducting witness interviews. If that's not the definition of hitting the ground running, Karen says, I don't know what is. Angie Zanakis, another colleague at Sidley, puts it this way. From early on, people would say, Kristen is going to run the office one day, and they were right. Kristen joined Sidley as an associate in 1999 after a clerkship with the Honorable David G. Larimer, then Chief Judge of the Western District of New York. Judge Larimer tells us that Kristen stood out for her knowledge of the law, her writing skills, and her work ethic. He remembers traveling to Washington and meeting Kristen for dinner early in her career. Afterward, he offered to walk Kristen to her car, but she asked him to walk her back to the office instead. That's just who she is, the judge says. Kristen's work ethic is matched by her intelligence and her savvy. Her colleague Karen Popp says Kristen is, quote, the full package. Her clients are well served, Karen tells us, because she approaches every case with surgical precision. She's always well prepared, anticipates different angles, and strategizes effectively. Kristen's talents as a lawyer are complemented by her skills as a leader. Managing Sidley Austin's office in DC is not a job for the faint of heart. but she has done so while making her mark as one of the country's leading white-collar lawyers and previously serving as a global co-leader of Sidley's white-collar defense and investigations practice. Kristen is deeply woven into the fabric of the firm, Karen says. For all her responsibilities, Kristen always makes time for others. An emeritus member of the Dean's Advisory Council, she's active in the Law Alumni Association's DC chapter, and she makes herself available to speak with new lawyers as they ease into the profession, and to counsel her colleagues as needed. Angie says that no matter how busy Kristen may be, she will always find time for her, and that hasn't changed for the past 22 years. Whenever I presented in court or in front of a client as a young associate, Angie says, Kristen would take notes and give thoughtful feedback. That kind of mentorship, consistent, invested, and deeply supportive, is rare. Ken Graham, class of 2011, is a partner at Phillips Lytle in Buffalo and Kristen's nephew. He says his aunt's career inspired him to go into the law. As a lawyer, Kristen takes every win or loss to heart, Ken says, but she balances that with dedication to her family, employing her management skills to organize get-togethers and vacation trips that bring the family together. Kristen's move to Washington in the late 90s was a result of her husband, Dave, being transferred to the DC area. Dave, also a 1994 alum, met Kristen in law school and quickly knew he had met his match. Judge Larimer notes that he's never forgiven Dave for coaxing Kristen away from the Western New York area. Fortunately for us, Kristen's ties to UB remain strong. In recognition of her ongoing commitment to her colleagues in her law school and her outstanding accomplishments as a private practitioner, the Law Alumni Association is pleased to present our Distinguished Alumna Award for Private Practice to Kristen Graham-Kohler.
Next, we honor an alum for her extraordinary commitment to public service. Michelle Brown is a private practitioner and the former chief attorney of the Children's Legal Center in Buffalo. During her oral history interview, Michelle shared the moment she first realized the impact of her work.
So I think when you're representing children, you always worry about, did you get it right? Because so much is at stake in their young lives. In particular, I remember one young lady whose mother kept alleging her father was molesting her. I didn't believe it. The mother became more and more outrageous in her allegations and more outrageous in her conduct. Ultimately, I took the position that this young lady should be in the care and custody of her father and have somewhat limited access with her mother. Judge Mintz, who was presiding, agreed with me, and Dad got custody. I always worried I got it wrong. What if he had been molesting this kid and I got it wrong? Years later, I ran into her and she said, "Oh, you are my law guardian." That was before we were attorneys for children. And I said, "Yes." We sat and talked for a little bit. And finally, I wiggled around and asked her the big question. The big question was, "You know, your mother said," and she interrupted me and she said, "My mother made me say those things. My father is my hero. And for once, I knew I had gotten it right."
Michelle Brown left private practice in 1999 to take her advocacy for children to a new level. She had been appointed the first chief attorney for the Children's Legal Center in Buffalo by the Honorable Dolores Denman, then the presiding justice of the Appellate Division, 4th Judicial Department. Those who know Michelle lavish her with praise, acknowledging the sacrifices she has made to do her life's work, now spanning more than 40 years. The Honorable Asa Mosey, Erie County Surrogates Court Judge, emphasizes that Michelle has always had the opportunity to go into more financially rewarding fields, but that's not where her heart lies. In Judge Mosey's words, her passion is helping people, especially those who cannot advocate for themselves. This has been her lifelong mission. That praise is echoed by Judge Mosey's predecessor, the Honorable Barbara Howe, class of 1980, who describes Michelle as having both courage and compassion, which she says are essential in cases that are filled with challenges. Advocates for children need to develop expertise in laws involving adoption, divorce, custody, and guardianship disputes. In a custodial case, the child's personal wishes are taken into account but are not always decisive. In Judge Howe's words, Michelle understands that what a child wants isn't always in their best interest. She has the wisdom and courage to advocate for what is truly best for the child, even when it's a difficult decision. Joan Casilio Adams, class of 1987, is a private practitioner at J. Adams & Associates, specializing in matrimonial and family law. Michelle is a colleague for whom she has great admiration. Joan tells us that Michelle is, quote, diligent, creative, participatory, and, when necessary, adversarial. When Michelle takes a case, Joan says she actively works on it, develops it, and strategizes in a way that ensures the best outcomes for the children she represents. Judge Mosey adds that Michelle treats every case, whether it involves $300 or $3 million, with the same level of commitment. It's her demeanor, her compassion, and her passion for the people that set her apart, Mosey says. Michelle understands their needs, sometimes even before they do. And Michelle is always focused on what is in the best interest of the individual for whom she's advocating. Now retired from her position with the Children's Legal Center, Michelle continues to represent children in her private practice and is a member of the 4th Department Attorneys for Children Advisory Committee. She also teaches a course titled Children in the Law as an adjunct faculty member at the law school. Joan Adams went to Michelle for guidance when Joan first began teaching as an adjunct as well. Joan notes that Michelle's talents and interests cast a wide net. In Joan's words, Michelle has rich personal and family experiences that make her presence in the courtroom and the classroom truly notable. Ken Manning, a 1977 graduate of UB Law and a partner at Phillips Lytle, is a longtime friend and colleague who shares Joan's admiration for Michelle. Representing children is incredibly tough, Ken says, yet Michelle has done it with skill, dedication, and compassion. It's hard to overestimate her abilities. At the same time, he adds, she's a great mother, devoted to her sons, Sam and the late Max. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this honor, Ken says, and neither can we. The Law Alumni Association very proudly presents a Distinguished Alumna Award to Michelle Brown for her unparalleled commitment to public service.
The award for community service is presented this evening to Joseph W. Bellick, class of 1994, founding partner of Bellick Law LLP in New York City, and a dedicated community advocate. In his oral history interview, Joe described his public service work for the State Judicial Conduct Commission.
So the most memorable public service work for me has been my 16 years as a member and now chair of the State Judicial Conduct Commission. The Judicial Conduct Commission is the disciplinary body for every state judge, town, village, city, Supreme Court, Appellate Division, and Court of Appeals. And if a judge does something wrong, they come before our commission and we determine if they should be disciplined and what that discipline should be, including removing judges from office. And our role is to make sure that when litigants and lawyers and court staff are interacting with judges, that the judges are following the judicial ethics rules, and that everybody gets a fair shake. We do what I think is very, very important, critical work. It's incredibly substantive to make sure that judges are behaving appropriately and that the court system is functioning in a fair, unbiased way for everybody.
Joe Bellick's career has always been centered on service and justice. It began with one of his first jobs working for Ralph Nader at Public Citizen, a nonprofit consumer advocacy group. He went on to represent the state of New York in litigation against Big Tobacco and later served as Director of Attorney Services for Trial Lawyers Care, where he provided free legal assistance to victims of the September 11th terrorist attacks. In 2002, Joe founded Bellick Law, where for more than 20 years, he has represented injured consumers and workers, settling more than $1 billion in asbestos and personal injury lawsuits. But beyond the successes of his professional practice, Joe has dedicated countless hours to his community in a broad range of public service roles. While there are far too many to mention, some of those most recent roles include Chair of the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, SUNY trustee since 2010, Chair of the SUNY Charter Schools Institute, Chair of the New York State Cannabis Advisory Board, member of the New York State Special Olympics Board of Directors, and Chair of the Precious Dreams Foundation. We consulted with some of Joe's friends and colleagues for insight on what drives him to serve. Steve Halpern, Professor Emeritus in UB's Political Science Department, describes his friend as a fierce and passionate advocate. Joe works hard to champion not just his clients, but the causes he believes in, Steve says. Devoting himself selflessly to the public good, he's like the Energizer Bunny. No matter what challenges arise, he just keeps going. Judge Richard Alisi, a former New York State Supreme Court Justice who now serves as of counsel to Bellick Law, says Joe's high energy is complemented by his superior intellect. I'd call him when I was on the bench, Judge Alisi says, and he'd be in the middle of 8 different things. Without looking at a note, he could tell me the case details, the value, the other parties involved, right off the top of his head. It's not just a sharp mind, it's a brilliant one. Michael Joyce, class of 1994, befriended Joe during law school and now operates his own law practice in Massachusetts. Michael marvels at Joe's ability to distill complex ideas into a single powerful sentence. According to Michael, Joe is incredibly determined, even relentless, when he sets his sights on something. Even early in law school, Michael tells us, Joe was laser focused on leveling the playing field, especially for people who didn't have the same advantages as others. Dan Lukasik, a 1998 UB Law grad, is the Judicial Wellness Coordinator for the New York State Office of Court Administration, and a longtime friend of Joe's. Dan says Joe's middle-class roots instilled in him strong values and an affinity for social justice. Joe is incredibly smart, Dan says, but more importantly, he has a deep sense of humanity and compassion. And Bob Tembekian, a friend and colleague who serves as Executive Director of the New York State Judicial Conduct Commission, shared a particularly memorable example of Joe's generous spirit and heart. Bob recalls the first time he visited Joe at work. He saw a beautiful Harley-Davidson motorcycle in Joe's office, one of his prized possessions. A year and a half later, Bob visited the office again and noticed the Harley was gone. Where did it go? A mesothelioma client had admired it, telling Joe, "I'd love to have a bike like that. I just wish I had the time left in my life to enjoy one." Joe told him, "I'll make a deal with you. If you survive a year through this litigation, the bike is yours." The client made it, and Joe gave him the Harley. With great admiration for the many ways Joe has demonstrated his selfless commitment to his community, we present our Distinguished Alumnus Award for Community Service to Joseph W. Bellick.
Tonight's honoree for her achievements in business is attorney Carmen Snell. A long-standing leader in the healthcare industry. When interviewed, Carmen spoke of what she considers her greatest professional achievement.
I would say my greatest professional achievement is, it's not just one thing in particular, but it is the ability to have achieved the level of status, the professional level of status that I had, but also at the same time to give back to the community. So the number of boards that I've served on, the number of committees that I've served on, it's all been an opportunity for me to give back. And I firmly believe, as the saying goes, to whom much is given, much is required. So I am always looking for an opportunity to give back to my community, to my city, to other attorneys, to other women, other men that I work with, to try to help people to achieve whatever level of status it is, or whatever work that they're trying to accomplish. If there's something that I can do to help you with that, then I am all in.
When Carmen Snell attended UB Law School in the early 1990s, the school was very much analog. In order to enroll in their preferred classes, Carmen and her law school friends would camp overnight in O'Brien Hall to be first in line when registration opened in the morning. At the time, Carmen and her husband, Tony Davis, were sometimes asked to babysit a family member's baby boy. One evening, that came up on the date of Carmen's planned all-nighter at the law school. Did that change her plans? Not a chance. Carmen and Tony brought the little guy along with enough diapers and bottles to last the night. And the next morning, she secured all her classes. That's just who Carmen is, Tony says today. She always puts others first and honors her commitments while never failing to get the job done. Tonight, we honor Carmen Snell for her exemplary accomplishments, a result of that tenacious spirit. From her distinguished work at Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, where she negotiated complex transactions and managed high-stakes litigation, to her earlier work with the New York State Attorney General's office, Carmen has achieved more than 2 decades of leadership success, applying her talents to the corporate, government, and private practice sectors. At Highmark, Carmen was a member of the New York leadership team and the primary attorney for multiple departments. She helped guide the region's largest health plan through major healthcare reform and served as the liaison between the company and state and federal regulators. She also served as diversity champion for Highmark's law department and co-chaired the Women's Leadership Circle. The Honorable Trini Ross, a fellow member of the class of 1992, has watched Carmen's career evolve. Trini became good friends with Carmen during law school. They spent many hours together in O'Brien Hall and formed a close study group. Trini, who we all know as the former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of New York, says members of the group still stay in touch and support one another, a tribute to their tightly knit bond. Since those early days, Trini has grown to admire Carmen's superior negotiation skills, honed at her recent role with Highmark. Carmen knows when to litigate and when to negotiate, Trini says. The ability to make the distinction is a superpower in legal work. Alan Bozer, class of 1984 and of counsel at Phillips Lytle, praises Carmen for her focus and meticulous attention to detail. Alan says her insights into the industry have been invaluable in their work together. But Carmen's career resume only scratches the surface of her commitment to service and leadership. She is a past president of the Minority Bar Foundation and sits on the boards of multiple organizations, including Read to Succeed Buffalo, the Bar Association of Erie County, and the Western New York Women's Foundation, among others. Nelson Perrell, a partner at Webster Zania in Buffalo, has worked with Carmen over the years and has always been impressed by her allegiance to her many volunteer positions. If you talk to people involved in the organizations she serves, Nelson says, they'll tell you that she isn't just a name on a list. She takes commitments seriously and is actively engaged. Nelson considers Carmen a trailblazer on Buffalo's legal scene. It's a bit of a closed generational community, he says, but she broke through those barriers a long time ago. And she's taken a strong interest in mentoring and promoting other women in underrepresented groups in the field, and that's truly to her credit. The Law Alumni Association credits Carmen with setting an outstanding example of leadership to many attorneys and law students who are following the path she has made for others. For her exceptional performance in business, we are pleased to present a Distinguished Alumna Award to Carmen Snell.
final presentation is to the Honorable Lawrence J. Villardo, United States District Court Judge for the Western District of New York. Judge Villardo is being recognized for his significant impact on our law school and our community as a non-alum. In his oral history interview, Judge Villardo recalls being asked by then Chief Judge of the State of New York, the Honorable Charles Desmond, to take over teaching his appellate practice class.
Judge Desmond was of counsel to the firm that I was an associate at, and his office was right next door to mine. And when he was sick with his final illness and in the hospital, I got a call from his grandkids one Sunday morning, and they asked me to come to the hospital, and it turned out to be the day before he died. And when I got there, he was worried about his appellate practice class at UB. Can you imagine? This is a very important judge. He's dying, and he's worried about his appellate practice class. And he asked me to teach it for him. And so I did. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I didn't actually teach it. I take too much credit when I say that I taught it. I actually got giants like Justice Mike Desmond and Justice Dolores Denman, Justice Sam Green, the clerk of the court, Carol Darnell, and others, Judge Matt Jason of the Court of Appeals. They came in and talked to the students about appellate practice. And it was a great semester for them and a great semester for me. And at the conclusion of that, Judge Desmond's grandkids gave me his gavel. And that gavel sits on my bench now. And I'm very proud of it, and show lawyers sometimes when they come into the courtroom that I have the gavel of the former Chief Judge of the State of New York, Charles Desmond.
When Judge Villardo says that being a federal judge is the best job in the world, his son, Alexander, likes to throw him a curveball. What about playing shortstop for the Yankees in the 80s? Alexander will ask his dad. Nope, Judge Villardo can't be swayed. He'd still rather be in his judge's robes than wearing Yankee pinstripes. That says a lot about his dedication. In case you're not familiar with his career arc, Judge Villardo earned his law degree from Harvard in 1980. He served as a clerk for Fifth Circuit Judge Irving L. Goldberg in Texas, and then returned to Buffalo. After several years working at Damon & Mori, he joined forces with well-known trial attorney Terry Connors, a 1971 UB Law grad, and they founded Connors & Villardo in 1986. In 2015, the U.S. Senate, by a vote of 88-0, confirmed Judge Villardo to the federal court bench. Terry tells us that his former partner has an intellectual gear that sets him well apart. Judge Villardo made law review at Harvard Law, Terry says, but he also has street smarts that augment his scholarly side. Vincent Doyle, class of 1989 and a partner at what is now Connors LLP, calls Judge Villardo, quote, one of the smartest people, if not the smartest person I have ever met. And you wouldn't know that by talking to him. He is humble and has a great sense of humor, including about himself. Judge Villardo's early dreams of becoming a federal judge took root during his clerkship for Judge Goldberg, who was an advisor to President Lyndon Johnson and whose rulings helped advance civil rights and abortion rights in the United States. Judge Villardo told an interviewer with the ABA's Litigation Journal that Goldberg was an amazing man, quote, a fabulous writer with incredible intellect, and the kindest and most generous and compassionate man I have ever dealt with. Similar words are frequently spoken about Judge Villardo, who spent several years as an editor for the Litigation Journal and who is himself an accomplished wordsmith. Terry Connors says he's never given the judge any material to read that hasn't come back better, usually covered in a lot of red ink. Cheryl Myers Booth, a top defense attorney in Buffalo, says she owes her career to the judge and Terry taking a chance on her. She was hired for an administrative job at their firm in the 80s. One day in the office, Cheryl remembers she overheard the judge searching for an answer. What was the book that Lewis Carroll wrote after Alice in Wonderland? He pondered. Cheryl poked her head into his office and said, "Through the looking glass, Mr. Velardo." The judge was impressed and took an interest in Cheryl's professional development, which put her on the path to law school and a stellar career. Judge Velardo's son, Alexander, is a 2018 UB Law graduate and a partner at Colligan Law in Buffalo. We asked him if his dad encouraged him to become a lawyer. His dad inspired him, Alexander says, but encouraged? Absolutely not. Alexander says his dad wanted him to chart his own path and avoid the pressures of his profession. Unsure what to do, Alexander phoned Terry, who he knows as Uncle Terry, to discuss his doubts. Terry invited him over for dinner that night, and Alexander made up his mind. He told his dad he was going to law school. Why the change of heart? Alexander told his dad, "Uncle Terry's a lot more persuasive than you are." Terry sums up his former partner this way: "If you're going to try to mold the perfect federal court judge, that would be Larry Velardo, but just a little taller." In recognition of the many ways that Judge Velardo has had a positive impact on our law school and the legal community, the Law Alumni Association proudly presents the award for outstanding service to a non-alumnus to the Honorable Lawrence J. Velardo.
I just want to thank all of you again for coming this evening and for your continued support and dedication to our law school and for all that you have done to make this event another great one. And thank you so much to the honorees. Each and every one of you really make us all proud to be members of this legal community and of UB Law. So thank you to each and every one of you. And have a great evening.